Welcome to the podcast. This show is about the Real Estate Network Training Society community, also known as Rents. We're a diverse group of investors and our members range from beginners to seasoned pros. Rents is the only charity real estate education company in Canada, and we're here to help you on your journey to financial freedom using real estate. My name is Sam Perrin. I'm the president of Rents, and I'll be your host today. I'm a full-time real estate investor who's retired as a police officer at the age of 30 to spend more time with my family. Now I help people create passive income through real estate. As you'll see from the many stories shared on this show, there's lots of roads that will take you to your goals. When you hear the diverse experiences of our guests, I bet that you'll find a path that mirrors your own, and this will inspire you to take the actions needed to build your wealth too. When you become financially free, you're better positioned to make the world a better place. And that's what we're all about. You can send any questions or suggestions for the show to info@rents.website. That's info@rents.website. Enjoy the show. My guest today is Tyler Gertzen. Tyler has been a friend for many years, and we met a long time ago when he used to ride along with me as an auxiliary constable for the RCMP. I've hired Tyler as my business consultant in the past, and if there's anything Tyler is best at, other than friendship, it's running a business. Tyler has built and sold numerous businesses, including a flight school and a landscaping business, and he owns a nice real estate portfolio as well. Tyler is also the membership coordinator of Rents, and I'm very excited to have him here today. Welcome to the Rents podcast.
Hi, Sam. Great to be here.
So we just spent a great couple hours here together, and you and I know each other very well, but just for our listeners who don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
For sure, yeah. Well, I'm an entrepreneur at heart, like you say, who has an interest in having real estate as part of my investment portfolio. I'm also a pilot. I enjoy flying planes and love just being really active, through sport and other means in the community.
Very cool. So, yeah, being a pilot is a pretty neat career, not super common. We'll get into a little bit about that later. I always like to know a bit about people's backgrounds, and I'm sure our listeners do too. Can you tell me a bit about your family and what it was like growing up for yourself? And just let us know where you came from.
Sure. So I came from a small northern town in BC. Definitely not a whole lot of wealth in my family at all. We're middle class, I would say at best, and always kind of had to watch the dollar and not spend above our means. So I learned to work hard at a young age, and always have to. If I wanted anything when I was a kid, pretty much I had to work for it myself, and things weren't handed to me. So I think that's where I got my good work ethic from. I ended up moving to Kamloops after high school was complete, and have been here ever since, continuing to grow business and invest in real estate. Kamloops is just a great hub, a great place to live.
Yeah, it sure is. So it's obvious you have a good work ethic. I'd say you have a lot of great habits. You're very punctual and very disciplined, and a lot of the things that are very important as an entrepreneur. How did you develop those skills and talents? Did you take courses or mentoring, or maybe take us from the time that you first came to Kamloops, and because you weren't always an entrepreneur, is that right?
I actually, I think that I have always been an entrepreneur. From the time that I was a little kid, I was the first. I think what got me going was back in, it was either grade 4 or grade 5. My teacher at the time, I remember one winter it had snowed really heavy, and he made an offer to all the students in the class, and he said, the first person to come over to my house and shovel my driveway after school today, I will give you, I think it was $15 or $20, but at the time it was just an insane amount of money for grade 4, grade 5, and so I made sure as soon as I got off school that day that I got a family member to drive me to his house, and I was the first one there to shovel the driveway and collect the cash. So that really opened my eyes to being able to make money in addition to, whatever small allowance I may have been getting at the time. And I like to think that that's probably what jump-started my entrepreneurial spirit. Going back to your question there about where did I get the qualities that I maybe am in possession of now, I think it's just from a good upbringing, being a part of a good family that had good morals and values that they instilled in myself from a young age. And I guess I matured quicker than the average person for my age. I wasn't really into the partying scene in high school. I was more into the how can I make more money and be more business minded. I was more driven through success in that area than actually acting my age at the time. So that's probably why I developed in the business arena a little sooner than most people do.
That is really cool. So you had a teacher that became essentially your first customer.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of ironic because that teacher probably didn't realize the lesson that he was teaching just in that moment where he had need. He was suffering from tennis elbow and was unable to clear his driveway himself, and he thought he was just serving his own purpose by having, cheap labor from some students come and help him out, but he was doing so much more for me than what he realized. Yeah, wow. That is, you know what, I never heard that story before, Tyler, and that's one of the reasons I love doing this, is get to know. Yeah, these podcasts are so revealing. You got to be careful the information that comes out when it's candid like this. Well, don't worry, we won't damage your reputation or mine too much. I hope so. Okay, so that was grade 4. What was your next kind of entrepreneurial venture? Well, that, needless to say, I continued shoveling driveways, but then I also decided to cut grass in the summertime. And I didn't want to just cut grass, pushing a lawnmower door to door. So I actually went out and I bought my first lawn tractor. I believe it was probably by grade 5 or 6. I had my first lawn tractor, and fortunately, I owe so much to my dad for driving me around in the back of his truck there with the lawn tractor when he got off work so that we could go and mow lawns together. So he helped me out quite a bit, more than I could ever repay, that's for sure. And then one lawn tractor turned into 2, turned into 3, and the next thing you know, I think by the time I was in grade 8, I had bought somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 or 6 lawn tractors. So that was kind of my passion at the time. I really enjoyed the work and enjoyed making way more money than my friends were doing chores around the house. The lawn care business in the summertime kind of took me through until the end of my school years. And then when I moved to Kamloops, I started that back up here and turned it into an all-year affair with 1 employee, and then 2 and 3 and 4. And by the time I sold the landscaping company, I had probably an average of 7 employees at any given time. So yeah, kind of went from there. Started really young and then just made it a reality out of high school. That is really cool. How old were you when you sold that business? I sold the landscaping company when I was 28. Wow. So after having it for about 7 or 8 years, had built it up to everything I had hoped it would be initially, and just got to the point where it was time for a new venture, and it worked out quite well. Yeah, that's very cool, and I think that's great that in grade school you owned 6 lawn tractors. I think that's pretty phenomenal. You worked as well, though. You had a job, right? Oh yeah. So like everyone else, in high school, well, most other people in high school anyway, who have to work for what they get. I had a part-time job, and my very first one was at Subway, and I started that. I think I was 15 or 16 when I started at Subway. And so I was doing that in addition to the lawn mowing. And it was definitely an eye-opener. It's a lot different when you're working for somebody else, and especially in customer service, fast-paced customer service like Subway would be. I did that for a couple of years, and it's safe to say you couldn't pay me enough to do that job again. However, much like every other job that I've had working for someone else, I've always managed to take something out of it to benefit my own business acumen. So even Subway, even though I didn't like it, it still taught me about business at a young age and being accountable for money and product and whatnot. And so after Subway, as far as other jobs go that I worked for other people, I worked at a car wash for a few years, as well as working at Canada Safeway at the same time. So you could say I kind of had like 3 jobs at one point in time there, latter part of high school. And Safeway is what brought me to Kamloops. I got transferred here as an assistant store manager, and I think Safeway is pretty much the last company. I was there for about 9 years and learned a lot about business, running different stores, and that's the last time that I've really worked for someone else. And my landscaping company, once it got big enough, then that's what took me out of Safeway. I was able to quit that and start focusing more on business and real estate.
Wow. So obviously, you had the entrepreneur bug from a young age, and you put a lot of work and effort into it. I still remember when you were consulting for me, and we'd sit down and you'd show me stuff that would just blow my mind, like just basic stuff now that I look at it. But when you don't know, you don't know. I remember, the check sheets and the checklists and the it was always fun to meet once a week and have the here are the tasks that you need to complete. That was when I was running the Hall Guys business. So
I was just so grateful to have a reason to meet up with you every week. It's always nice being in your company.
Okay, well, you don't have to blow smoke here. This is anyway. So you obviously worked very hard. What's the main driving reason for you working so hard, Tyler?
I don't want to have to be worrying about, am I going to be able to pay my bills every day? I think a lot of people wake up in fear of making ends meet and not being able to support a comfortable lifestyle. And, that's a big, that should be a motivating factor for most people to want to do better and provide not only for themselves, but to be able to help their family if a family member becomes in need or a friend becomes in need. I'm driven to be able to live a lifestyle that is comfortable and rewarding, and to be able to help those around me at the same time when they come into a time of need.
Yeah, that's a really great reason to work hard to basically have the financial freedom to do the things that are important to you and to help those causes and those people that are important to you. So. Was there ever a turning point in your life? I know that there has been a lot, but maybe we'll be able to talk about something that I don't know about yet. Was there a turning point in your life, a decision that you made that set the trajectory for your life? A decision that you made that if you'd made a different decision, you'd be in a totally different place right now?
2 times come to mind, and the first decision was to transfer out of my hometown when I was working for Canada Safeway to come to Kamloops. And I just couldn't imagine where I would be in my education, life education, and where I'd be financially in all aspects if I was still living in my hometown. Not that it's a bad place, not at all. I love going back to visit. However, I think a person just needs to see different parts of the world, even if that world is just, within your corner of the country that you live in, and able to understand what else is out there in life. So transferring to Kamloops probably was a life-changing moment for me. I didn't realize it at the time. And then the second time was when I quit Safeway to run my landscaping company full-time. And it definitely wasn't making any money at the time, and that's why I left my job, so that I could save it and turn it into everything I'd hoped it would be. At the time, I was depending on other people to run my business for me, and just wasn't really working out. So quitting Safeway, a really well-paying job with awesome benefits, good time off, to dive right into my non-profitable at the time landscaping company. That was a very big life decision that I wish that I had done a little sooner, actually. But it ended up being a pretty good move. So yeah, those are my two big game changers that I can think of.
So now I'm curious. You mentioned your hometown a couple times. Where is it?
I'm from Williams Lake.
Oh, okay. Very cool. So what is it that made you quit your job at Safeway and focus on? You said your landscaping business was maybe struggling a bit. What made you leave a stable job and go to this business that you believed in, obviously, but that was uncertain?
Well, I knew that there was more potential in working for myself than there ever was going to be in working for somebody else. And by that I mean in the financial realm of things. I worked very hard, very long, hard hours for Safeway, and it didn't necessarily mean that I made all that much more at the end of the year, but I knew if I worked very long, hard hours for myself, that I would be able to make exponentially more in any given year. So I was, my accountant had pretty much put me on the spot and said, you know what, at this point in time, this business has ran for a few years now, you're not making anything, you got to make a decision. Are you going to keep funding this business with your well-paying Safeway job? Or are you going to quit that job and actually turn this business into something? And I knew in my heart of hearts that there's no way that I was going to pick being a slave for Safeway over being a hard worker for myself. That was a pretty easy choice.
Yeah, well, and it must have taken some courage to make that choice, that decision as well. So
definitely.
So this is a real estate focused podcast. Can you tell us how did you get started in real estate? What made you think that real estate was a good move for you?
Well, when I bought my very first property when I came to Kamloops, it was a townhouse in a complex that you currently have a few townhouses in now yourself. And when I initially bought in there in 2004, I got my townhouse for somewhere around $95,000. I had that for about a year, and then I got transferred briefly out of Kamloops again with Safeway, and I thought I was going to be there for a while. So at the time, I was not real estate savvy. I was maybe getting business savvy, but I wasn't real estate savvy yet. So I thought, well, the best move is for me to sell this, because who am I to manage it from a long ways away? So I sold it about a year after buying it, and let's say a year and a few days, and I made $10,000, I think it was, maybe $8,000, somewhere around there. And to me, to make that kind of money on something that I did nothing but a little bit of paint and some updating, I was just beside myself. And keep in mind, I'm only maybe just 20 at this time, so $8,000 or $10,000, that's pretty good. And so that kind of started the real estate bug for me. And when I came back to Kamloops, I tried to do a flip with a friend at the time, where we purchased a house in Brock that was, kind of run down, and the idea was that we would both put some sweat equity into it and turn it around and sell it for a good profit. But that didn't really pan out. I learned at a very young age that words are easy, but the actual physical labor that's put into something, that's hard. I was there all day, late into the evening, many days for months, working on this place, while my friend worked his job and showed up maybe a few hours each week to help me out. And ended up not making any money at all on that place. We probably broke even at best. So that kind of continued my venture into the real estate game. I wasn't deterred. I wasn't never going to try and flip a house again, but I had learned so many valuable skills through that first failure. That I was able to take with me into the future. So after that, I bought a place of my own, a duplex that I'm currently still in, and it was probably one of the best real estate purchases I've ever made. Because it's a full duplex, the other side pretty much covers my mortgage, so I live mortgage free. And at the time, I didn't realize what an amazing investment it was going to be. But now, 11 years down the road, it's been fantastic. After that, I did one other successful flip downtown Kamloops. Took what I learned from the first one and did one downtown that worked out really well. And have purchased other rental properties in Kamloops and Vernon since then. So I've got 6 doors now, and it's working out pretty well for me.
Yeah, I think what's really cool about your portfolio is, there's all kinds of different ways to buy real estate. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've managed to buy everything 100% yours, right?
Yeah, with the exception of the one partnership that we did there together, everything else has been 100% me.
Yeah, and it's nice to own 20 doors or 50 doors, or whatever. But if you own 10% of the portfolio, you're doing that much more work for for essentially the same share. So definitely something to be said about going about it on your own. And it certainly simplifies things. You don't you're not. If I could go back, would I want to do everything on my own? Well, I mean, there's some good arguments for that, and I think it's a cool way to go if you have the capacity to do it. So, speaking of which, so you're running your portfolio basically on a part-time basis because you got lots of stuff going on. You bought and sold another business, a flying school, right? And you've done. Now you were just telling me about an exciting new opportunity that you're going after. So you're doing this part time. How do you manage things part time? Because your entire portfolio is not in Kamloops, is that right?
Yeah, so I have one side-by-side duplex in Vernon, and then all of my other properties are in Kamloops. So I've been really lucky that I guess the areas that I've chosen to buy in are areas that I either live in myself or I've got family that lives in the area. Not to say that I wouldn't venture out and buy something where I don't have any immediate contacts, but it's worked out well for me to either live in the same town myself or have very close family that lives nearby that can help out in a pinch. So for me to manage my properties part-time has worked out with my schedule because in the past I've had a fairly flexible schedule, so if an emergency comes up I can usually get there pretty quickly. I've got a list of go-to people for each area that I know that I'm going to contact depending on what it is that's needed, and it's been definitely manageable for me. I know if I got to the point where I had quite a few more doors, then I would probably want to get somebody managing it for me, as it just wouldn't be worth my time at that point. But for the size that I'm at now, it seems to be just working out okay for me to do it myself.
Yeah. Do you hire out much of the stuff? The renovations or anything? Or are you doing a lot of that stuff? Like, do you have to be a handyman? Is that that's basically what I'm getting to? Are you?
I think it saves you money to be a handyman when you're talking small scale, still like what I'm at. If you're managing a lot of units, I don't think you're actually doing much of the work yourself, hardly ever. So it probably wouldn't matter if you're a handyman or not. But when you're small scale and you're doing the management all on your own, then yeah, if you can fix that tap, if you can patch that hole in the wall without having to call somebody to do it, then you're definitely going to save yourself money for sure. And if you have a business, you could even use that time and bill it out and create more revenue for your company to offset some taxation. But I definitely call people out if it's something beyond my skill set. I don't like to waste my time trying to figure out how to do something with a good chance that I may end up doing it wrong and then having to pay somebody to do it after that. I would rather just pay somebody right from the start to do it right. It saves me time, it saves my tenants having to open up their home for longer than need be. And you know what, if I'm going to end up probably having to pay something anyway down the road, then I'd rather just pay it up front and be done with it. So that would be my advice. If you're not certain about what it is that you're trying to fix, could end up costing you, your time is valuable. So don't waste too much time trying to fix it if you don't know what's going on. Just call an expert in from the start, and you can watch them do it and maybe learn that way while paying them to get it done efficiently and soon.
Yeah, and I know one of your strengths, Tyler, is negotiating. I remember I can't believe how cheap you got the renovation done quickly. You got the renovation done at our townhouse there that we had we'd purchased together and owned together for a period of time there. You're very good at organizing and negotiating with those contractors to get a decent little project done. So that was really neat, and I think it's kind of funny, maybe an interesting story to the listeners as well, about how you had bought in that complex. How long ago was that? 10 years, 15 years
Yeah,
ago?
it would have been back in 2004.
So you bought for $90,000 back then, and then when we partnered, when was that? I'm trying to remember.
About 4 years ago, maybe 2014. 2013, somewhere around there.
Yeah, something like that. So we ended up purchasing that place for about $200,000, I think. So
yeah. So if I'd have kept it for just 10 more years,
yeah, it would have been.
I could have made another 90 grand or more.
Yeah. So it's interesting.
A lesson to the listener: buy and hold.
Buy and hold. Yeah. Flipping can be good. It's good to have some income come in, but. And I think I've heard other real estate experts talking about how in Canada, the value of real estate basically doubles every 10 years, or that's what historically is shown. So, So, where are you going next with real estate? Are you looking to acquire anything else?
Well, I've kind of put myself on a bit of a slower paced program than the average person, because I like to take care of my deals on my own, and although it is a wise move to look for other people's money to help, I'm definitely I think that's great, but just for me, I like trying to support all of my deals on my own. So probably within the next 2 to 3 years, I'd like to acquire either another duplex, or ideally maybe even a fourplex. That would be my goal. And then again, 2 or 3 years after that, repeat that process. So I'm hoping to have somewhere in the neighborhood of about 10 to 12 doors by the time that I'm 40. Yeah, and they'll all be, as we said before, 100% yours, so that's going to be a pretty good little income. A lot of what you'll have will be largely paid for in that time, thanks to tenants, and it's a nice size portfolio to manage on your own. Like, how much extra time do you think it takes to manage that that portfolio, as compared to running a full-time business with staff and employees? Well, I think for what I have now, for the 6 doors that I have now, if I were to take tenant turnover, so every time there's tenant turnover, then you got to go in there and clean the place up, maybe update some paint or fix something else up just to keep things current. If you were to average, the time that you spend on tenant turnovers, and then you get the odd week where maybe you don't have to do anything, which is just a blessing, you're probably looking at about maybe 5 to 6 hours a week, I would say, on average, when you take those really heavy weeks and then the really light weeks, let's say 5 to 6 hours. So it sounds like an hour a week per property? Yeah, maybe an hour a week per door. And that's, I don't, I'm not saying that I'm the best. There's lots that I can learn still too, but I can definitely say that you need to take a proactive approach about it. If I wanted to, I could probably spend 10 minutes per door on average per week and still just get by. but I want to be a proactive landlord. I want my properties kept up in good condition, and I want them rented out to good people for top dollar. So you can't just buy the property, throw somebody in there, kick back, and expect to reap the benefits. A lot of landlords, I think, take that approach at first, or maybe not even at first, but continue that approach, and they're just not maximizing on their real estate investment by doing that. It's just a lazy way of being a property owner.
Yeah, and that's really wise words, because if you let a property slide, well, obviously the quality of tenant you get can be worse the next time around if you're not upkeeping it. Maybe your rents will be lower, and then if that quality of tenant is worse, then the way that they're going to treat that property is not going to be as good. And I've seen other landlords fall into this trap where you keep renting for a lower price and you keep getting a crappier tenant, and you basically become a slumlord. Your nice property becomes and we've seen this in my old job, right? Where all of a sudden an inexperienced, maybe lazy, maybe too busy, maybe they inherited the property. They let the place get away on them, and eventually the only people that rent for them are basically the drug addicts or the drug dealers, and that's how you end up with a problem property in a neighborhood, right? So,
and that's just creating more time and hassle for yourself that could have been avoided by putting that time in at the front end.
Yeah, and it devalues your property as well. So definitely one way to make sure that management is being done well is to do it yourself. How did you become the property manager that you are? Did you take any courses or any training? Or
no, just learning on the fly, learning on the streets, and there's probably a lot of things that I would have had to call on other help for at the beginning before I had been a landlord, and now I've seen it done a couple times. I've kind of figured out better ways to handle certain things. So I think it's just, you can definitely do it by learning on the job. There's lots of experts out there for any realm of problem that you're going to have, and at first it might cost you a little bit more money, but education always costs you something. You're lucky if all it costs you is your time. Education is usually going to cost you some form of money regardless of what it is, but then that's something that you keep with you, so you'll have it for the next time and you won't have to pay as much for it.
Yeah, wise words. I mean, a nice shortcut is to pay for coaching or for real estate education. But the other way to learn certainly is to do trial and error on your own. So, so I mean, a lot of people are thinking about getting into real estate. Maybe some of our listeners are thinking, "Gee, I don't know. Maybe this is for me. I don't know. Maybe I want to join. I want to do this on my own, like you did, or maybe I should join a networking group and meet with other investors." So, what would you say to people who are asking themselves, is this real estate investing thing? Is this for me?
Well, I think if you want passive income and a flexible schedule and the hope of a better quality life for yourself down the road, maybe not tomorrow, but a year or 2 or 5 years from now, depending on how hard you work, I think that the answer is yes. And real estate is, especially the buy and hold, is such a safe route to creating wealth for yourself in life. I can't think of any other investment or any other business that I've done that has created the earnings for myself with as small amount, not that it isn't much work, but with as little amount of work comparatively speaking as real estate. It's definitely a great financial driver if you can stand dealing with other people, because you are going to have to deal with other people as you do in most areas of life, but if you can take a small risk, and I do mean small, this is one of the better areas of investing where the risk is very, very low. And if you can handle dealing with other people, then I think that the real estate investing can be for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly made a huge difference in my life, and it's nice to hear about how it made a difference in yours as well. It's actually funny. We're recording this at poolside at a townhouse complex that that we were looking at as an interesting or potential investment. It sounds like you might have it sold to somebody else already, but you say maybe I'll buy a townhouse in the next 2 or 3 years, but you're always working something. So I know you like to play your cards a little bit close to your chest, but
you got to be able to be fluid. Life is going to throw you different opportunities, and if you keep the blinders on, then you'll end up missing out on most of them.
Yeah. So it's really interesting to see what you do with this deal when it's completed. Whichever way it goes, it'll be interesting to hear how it goes. So to our listeners, if you're hearing a little bit of the background noise, we just had a little girl walk by pushing her baby stroller. Her toy baby stroller. So it was, it's certainly a nice neighborhood here, and a nice place to do our recording. So Tyler, I'm just going to move the conversation a little bit of a different direction. What are you afraid of, and what do you do to overcome those fears?
That's a really good question, Sam. You've left it quite open for me there. So I guess things in life that I think of that I am afraid of are looking back and having regret. That is something that keeps me on my toes and keeps me thinking all the time. And being in a position in life where you and I are very blessed right now, we've got great health and ability. We get to live in a wonderful part of the world, a wonderful part of Canada. But, if anything were to ever happen in our lives to tip the scales there, and all of a sudden we weren't so fortunate for some reason, I want to be able to put myself in a position that I'm going to be able to be looked after. If whether it's health concerns or maybe if a natural disaster were to come through, we don't know what's going to happen an hour from now. We don't know what's going to happen a day from now. But if I can put myself in a position where I don't have to worry constantly about not being able to meet the needs of myself and my family, then that makes me feel a lot better about life. So, those would be my fears. Having regret and not being able to care for myself and those around me.
Yeah, well, it's funny that you mentioned regret, because I've read several studies that said that they're talking to people at the end of their lives, asking them what is their number one piece of advice, or it always comes back to regret and how they either regret doing something or how they are so happy that they didn't hold back on something that something in their lives that would have made them regret a move. Most you always hear, I never wish that I'd spent more time in the office.
And yet that's what we find a lot of ourselves doing, and I get caught up in that myself. It's like, you want to create this life that's a little more free of worry, yet we feel that in able to create that life, we need to bust our 16 hours a day and just work and sleep. So it's really important to consider the fact as well that you might not get to that 5 years from now. You might not get to that 10 years from now. So if you can't be happy with what you have at this very moment, then you need to take a look at your life, and that's where you should start. So it's very important to be happy with what you have today. Be content with where you're at. If you're not, then change it. Do something to change it, because we only have today. And so if you can't be happy with today, then there's no sense in worrying about being happy 5 or 10 years from now. You got to start from a place of happiness, and then the good comes. If you constantly go through life thinking that if I have enough good, then I'll be happy, then you'll never reach that happiness.
Yeah, so being content with the present moment, I think that's a very valuable lesson. What would you tell your younger self? You're only in your 30s, but what if you could tell your 20-year-old self something? What would you tell your younger self?
I would love to be able to actually do this in real life, Sam. I think about this regularly, and if I could go back in time, I would point out to myself all of the areas in life in which I wasted so much time and so much money, especially, and I would save myself from making those mistakes. and I would tell myself to have more fun. When I was, in my late teens and through my 20s, I was functioning more like a late 30s, early 40s kind of person, and I totally wish that I could have that time back to relive it and be more my age. So yeah, that's the advice I would give myself.
But a guy in his 50s is going to say, hey, you're still pretty young, and and you got lots of time to have fun.
It's all perspective.
You're not that old yet, Tyler. I think we're around the same age, you and I think.
Yeah.
So maybe just what specifically? Can you talk specifically about one of the things that you would have told your younger self not to waste money on?
Oh, for sure. Just to humor the audience a little bit. Yeah. When I was in my teens, so when I was 16 and getting my first vehicle, for example, I was really into my truck. The first truck that I bought, I wanted it to be the nicest truck in town, and of course it wasn't brand new. It was older, right? I had to stay within my means. But the majority of the money that I made through my high school years, I spent on making that truck just the coolest truck. And it was nice. I had it in some auto shows and local auto shows, and it was beautiful. I was very, very proud of that truck, and my parents would bother me all the time and even get mad at me for spending money on that truck. But you know what? I didn't drink. I didn't do drugs. I was very responsible in every other area of life, and it just that was my money pit. Was that truck? And so I probably wasted at least $25,000-$30,000 at a very young age.
Wow.
on something that I was never going to get that money back from. So, lots of good memories. Lots of good memories and whatnot to take out of that experience, but definitely that could have been like my first down payment. That could have been another down payment on another property, right?
So no vehicle, no to a vehicle depreciating asset. Yes,
don't
to real estate.
Don't dump all of your money into a depreciating asset. Yeah.
Oh, I think that's awesome. Well, Tyler, thank you so much for the awesome interview. If our listeners want to get a hold of you, I mean, I had huge value from you as a mentor, as a business coach in the early stages of my business. If people are interested in reaching out to you for that, how can they get a hold of you?
Sure, Sam. Yeah, that'd be great. If anybody would like to contact me, feel free to shoot me an email to my personal email. It's tylergertzen@hotmail.com, or you can also find me on Facebook, Tyler Gertzen on Facebook. And I'd be happy to chat with any of your listeners.
Cool. Yeah, Gertzen is Gertzen.
That's correct.
Good stuff, Tyler. Thank you so much for speaking with me today. I know that the Rents community is going to be very happy to get to know you a little bit more because you're so reserved. You play your cards very close to your chest. Thanks for opening up and sharing with us. I really look forward to seeing you at the next Rents meeting, and hopefully we get another board game night in soon. So
that would be great.
Thanks, Tyler. Have a great day.
You too.
Before we close the show, I just want to say that all the activities Rents undertakes, including this podcast, benefits our bursary program. We've given thousands in bursaries to post-secondary students in real estate-related fields of study. And in that light, I'm asking that wherever you're listening to this, please comment and let us know what you think, good or bad. You're also invited to our next meeting for free. You'll learn something new from one of our speakers and even have a chance to pitch your deal. Do you need cash? Are you looking for property to buy? Share what you're missing with the group and watch your business grow. At recent meetings, there was over $1,500 in finder's fees handed out just for providing a name and a number to someone who is selling a property. There's always at least $1 million in the room looking for the right opportunity, so this is your chance to pitch your deal. You never know where you're going to meet your next joint venture partner. If you're new to real estate investment, we want to hear from you too. You have unique talents and experiences that we can all benefit from, so please come share. You'll have the opportunity to learn the business and meet other like-minded people looking to make the world a better place. Remember that everything you want is in the hands of others, so come learn how to serve them. Lastly, we ask that you leave us a 5-star review. This will help others who need unbiased real estate education find us. To join us in person or online, please email info@rents.website. That's info@rents.website. See you next time.